she was saying like, oh, well, I guess if a bunch of African-American, or however she said, a bunch of gentlemen want to defend someone from defaming an African-American woman, it's okay. Like, that's what was happening. She wasn't acknowledging that Anthony was being hit. She acted like that these guys had read his Twitter feed and not liked it. It was just
like she read their Twitter feed in the future.
In the future, it was repulsive. Well, a woman who looks like the fucking fake deaf interpreter from Mandela's funeral is beating on Anthony. But
fake deaf interpreter is that's a meme. That guy's a meme.
He's rules. But the company, these guys just get, all of a sudden they're home and they're getting phone calls in the office the day before vacation. So what are your comments? And they probably weren't even that familiar with it until they're getting calls from the paper and they're like, well, what do we do with this? And then this is what the press does. And this is why you got to hate it. Because I think Sirius was going to try to write it out. That's my opinion, because they knew a holiday weekend was coming. And this is purely a guess because no one was saying anything. And then all of a sudden the press starts going, we have not had a comment from Sirius Satellite Radio, so we're assuming that they agree with Mr. Cumia's opinions. They do this sneaky shit to push you into defending yourself. So now the company with shareholders, like you said, has to go, well, how do we tell people that we don't agree? So it's not like if the press has made them do it, but the press understands how to corner you into giving a statement, a definitive statement, because they know that you're not used to this. They know that these guys coming to work in management positions are not used to getting phone calls going, how do you feel about this statement and that statement? It was really it was a very frustrating thing when I saw what the press did with it. That to me is always who my biggest complaint is with. Always is with the press.
There's no nuance to the way they report on certain things like this, because there's nuance to this, especially if you look into it in character. If you in context, rather, if you understand that guy and you look at him, look, there is a problem with violence in the black community. To pretend there's not a problem with violence in the black community is to pretend that there aren't insane amounts of murders going on in Chicago. To pretend that there's not issues with the amount of black people that are in jail, the percentage of the population. Now, are those economic problems? Are those problems related to upbringing? Are those yes. Education, yes, absolutely. There's a lot of fucking disparity. There's a lot of problems with poverty. There's a lot of problems with the structure of our culture itself. And that you could attribute a lot of those problems to racism in the way that funds are allocated, the way that, the attention that society puts on impoverished communities. Absolutely.
Institutionalized.
Yes. But to pretend that it's not a problem is ridiculous.
Right.
It's fucking ridiculous. So when he's taking a picture of some chick and she starts punching him, I think he's allowed to talk about the problem with violence with that community, with the community that this person is from that's beating him up. Did he do it the right way? No, absolutely not. Did he do it in a way that could be misconstrued or construed or interpreted as racist? Absolutely did. Yeah, he did. He fucked up. He did it the wrong way. He probably shouldn't have done it on Twitter. He probably should have made a video.
Right.
Explaining, showing what happened to him, and explaining what goes on. Explaining this 140 fucking characters thing is a big part of the problem.
Dude, absolutely. That's exactly what it was. Because Anthony is so good at clarifying. Whenever you talk about race or a million other things, whether it's religion or whatever, it's so hard to make your point without stepping in shit and then having to go off on 50 digressions. Like, no, that's not what I meant. No, that's not what I meant. Like, that's the worst part of discussing stuff is that people jump in on the side. What are you saying? That all people do? All black people? No, I'm not. So in order to be able to get your point across, you have to walk a narrow – you almost have to close people's argument doors like a Get Smart episode as you're walking. This way your point gets through. Mm-hmm. And Anthony is a genius at doing that. A genius at it, because we've debated race so many times on the show, and him and Patrice would go back and forth, and Patrice loved Anthony because he said Anthony's an adorable racist. Patrice was so funny with it. He never was upset by Anthony's opinions because Anthony would listen to him, and they would go back and forth. Half the times Patrice was right, and half the time Anthony was right. But on Twitter, I think like in that emotion, when you're saying X, Y, and Z, I don't think he did as good a job as he should have done of closing those doors behind him, almost like sealing off things that people can get to you on, because he was so upset because he had had a physical assault. And I know it sounds like I'm talking in circles and just defending my friend, but I've been with him for 10 years in this medium of totally uncensored. And I'm telling you, I know him well enough to know that he's got weird things where he'll talk about race and people misinterpret him. And I've talked to him privately. And the guy does not hate black people. And I know that that's just, his friend's defending him. But I'm telling you that he does not because I know him well. And then to hear people going, he hates black people, it's like...
He's just not afraid of being misconstrued or interpreted as racist. He's not afraid of it. By saying what he really believes is his opinion about certain aspects of a group. Whatever, a race, a gender, whatever it is.
Sure.
He's not afraid of speaking his mind about things because he's got that fuck you money.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. And he's got 150,000 guns.
Yes.
Those are two things. And, you know, a big part of it that drove me fucking crazy is people are not, they're not taking into account the reaction that someone has when they get assaulted.
Yes.
Because when you get hit by someone, some fucking stranger that you don't know hits you, especially when you've got a gun, you've got a fucking bullet launching gun. You've got a thing inside you that has explosions. You press a trigger, explosions propel bullets, and they end lives instantly. And Anthony's an expert with one, and he has it on him at all times. And he's getting hit. And he's like, what the fuck? And so he gets on my fucking animal bitch, fuck you, this, that. You know, it's getting hit is a very disturbing thing. I mean, there's one thing to get hit getting hit in a sparring session is infuriating with people. You know, I've seen people go fucking crazy because they get choked out in a jiu-jitsu session. Getting punched is way more traumatic. Getting punched by a stranger multiple times for taking a fucking photograph. I don't know what the exchange was between the two of them. I don't know, you know, if he was saying something that was infuriating. I wasn't there. You know, I'm not going to pretend I was there. But, man, you got to take into account the reaction that people have when you hit them.
And it to me, and again, I hate to keep going back to the press, but they didn't focus on the fact that he handled himself properly in that. Because I know I don't know if I would have pulled the gun in that moment, but I'm a panicky Pete, and I would have just, when other guys were coming over, I would have at least brandished it. And he acted physically responsible, like as a fucking guy with a pistol on him, because people get shot all the time for dumb arguments and dumb things. He handled himself absolutely right and lost his cool once he got home. And the press didn't take that into account. They harped on the fact that he didn't get a police report. And I wished he had now in hindsight, because they're all going, Mr. Coombs, you did not get a police report. But here's the deal. Had he gotten a police report, they would have just ignored it. They wouldn't have said, well, at least he got a police report. They would have glanced over the fact and then said, yeah, well, anyone can get a police report. So they were just using that as a reason to kind of ignore the fact that he got hit. They're like, we didn't see a police report. All the press harped on the fact that he didn't get a police report. But Ant's response was, look, man, you know, I know enough cops to know that me getting hit by some lady in Times Square is not a fucking priority for NYPD, who's worried about terrorists.
Yeah, especially if he's fine. I think there's a real issue also with what the press, with a lot of people in the press, I'll clarify that. What they're trying to do is they're trying to close those Get Smart doors as they write a piece as well. And as they're writing a piece, they are also trying to placate all the people that are going to be up in arms about their opinions, if they could possibly be supporting a racist, if they could possibly be taking his side, agreeing with him, seeing his point of view. They could be misinterpreted, or they could be interpreted as being racist as well. So they have to worry about that as well, especially if you're with a liberal rag. You know, if you have a very liberal newspaper that you work for and they have a clear agenda, which a lot of them do. The Washington Times does, right?
Washington Post, absolutely.
Washington Post does. There's a lot of them that have a liberal slant. And if you are reporting for them, you know, and it's something like this that's very controversial and something where there's a bunch of things that automatically have like a knee-jerk reaction to them. And this is one of them. Knee-jerk reaction to what's perceived as racism.
Yes, and another thing that they do that's even more enraging is what people who write for the press now have to do is that it's not just reporting what happened. It's how do I editorialize under the guise of being impartial.
Right.
And they do that a lot too. And that I don't like either. It's like that to me is the worst crime they commit, actually. It's the editorializing as they're going along, like it's legitimate, like NBC. And I'm not a Zimmerman fan either. Ant was a big supporter of Zimmerman. I thought Zimmerman should have went to jail for something. I didn't know what. Legally, I have no ground to stand on, but I kind of thought he was a cunt. But but not a guy who was out to commit a murder either. I thought there was a line in between. But whatever. Like NBC edited that tape.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
Can't do that.
There's no reason to do that unless you're pushing something, but they're doing it under the guise of being impartial. And I'm sure they've done it plenty of times to vilify blacks. I'm not saying they haven't.
He lost that lawsuit, you know.
I know he did.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's absolutely nuts. I don't know why. The news has such a different level of what they can get away with and what they can do because they're seen as doing a public service.
In my opinion, though, I think they lost it because everybody was hating that guy, and they didn't want him to win something on top of this. The fact that he still has his freedom, the kid lost his life.
Right.
I think he's a sucky fucking security guard. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to look at that guy and find fault in what he did, it's how did he handle the situation, and would a more confident, competent person have handled it the same way? Like, here's a perfect example. My friend Big John McCarthy, who is a cop. I guarantee you, the referee.
Oh,
UFC
yeah.
referee.
He's a cop, that guy?
Was a cop for a long time. But a great guy. But knows how to handle shit. If Big John McCarthy saw that kid walking in the neighborhood, he probably would have said, "How you doing, man? Everything cool?" Had a conversation with him, everything would have been fine. Like, even if the kid, got up in arms or got mouthy with him, he would have probably calmed him down, without having to get into some physical altercation. Not only that, the kid wouldn't have been able to mount him and bash his fucking head off the ground because he's physically incompetent.
Right.
If you're going to fucking patrol a neighborhood, you can't do it just with a gun.
Right.
You can't have the last resort is your only resort. He can't physically defend himself. He's out of shape, he's soft and doughy, and he's not physically able to hold that guy off. But yet he's put himself in this position where he's like a security. He's the force of the truth of the law. You can't do that.
Right.
You're not qualified for that job. He's just not. So when that kid's on top of him, bouncing his fucking head off the curb, look, I don't see any way out for him other than using a weapon.
Right.
When that kid's beating the shit out of him, but he should have never gotten to that position. It should have never escalated to that. You telling me the only way two people can communicate like that is it comes into violence? No, it's how do you deal with it? How do you communicate? How did you address this person? What did you say when he talked back to you? What did you say? What were the exchange of words?
Right.
And those things, there's a big difference between. There was a video that we played the other day. Do you even lift, bro? You ever see that guy? The Russian guy. Is he Russian?
There's even a worse one. Those
Russian?
I don't know. The Pakistani kids, though, in New York, where the Bronx, the police chief in Bronx, New York, was like, "Stop doing it. You're going to get killed." Like, these two kids are just go on YouTube and they go up to people in horrible neighborhoods and are like, "Hey, man, do you got a problem?" While he's holding a calculator and he's just trying to be funny, but these guys are just bashing their heads in and stuff. And so the Bronx chief of police or something like that said, "Look, stop it." But yeah, these videos are getting more popular.
My point is, if you watch those videos. The guy, he comes up to people that look like they work out and goes, "Do you even lift, bro? Look how small you are." And some people handle it great. Some people go, "Man, don't pull it up. We don't need to see it." Some people go, "Yeah, I don't even lift. I guess I'm small." And then they laugh and they walk away. And some people threaten them. It depends entirely on how two people interact with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we don't know about the Anthony situation. That's what we don't know about the Zimmerman situation. It's not just about what went down. It's about how did it all play out? How could it have been avoided?
There's little subtleties in language. Like when Jonah Hill was apologizing recently, and he's obviously not a homophobe. He just got mad and said, "Suck my dick, faggot." It was a stupid thing in a moment. And he's on the Tonight Show. And again, he's just apologizing. I don't think he never had to deal with something like this. And he said something. He goes, "Man, the intent doesn't matter. It's the words. The words are..." And it was like, again, I know you're on the spot in that moment. And I'm not going to crucify the guy. But I wish I was there so I could just appear on the seat next to him, like in that Woody Allen scene when the guy walks out to correct the guy online and go, "No, the intent is everything." Because if the words matter, the next time somebody said the fucking Giants killed the Jets, well, we better call the police. Oh, that's right. It's the intent. We understand every single interaction or phrase has an intent behind it, which doesn't always come through in the written word. It's just it's an inflection.
And that's something that you and I had a conversation about with the Tracy Morgan situation, with people pretending that what he was saying when he was on stage, that he was going to stab his son if his son was gay. Like, his whole act is filled with him saying ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
This is not a statement. It's not an affidavit he's making in court. You're taking it out of context because it's a soft target if you do that.
Yes. I'm going to stab my son because he's gay as a statement of fact, or at the end of a political rally, is a pretty awful thing to say. But if you've opened up with, "I'm going to get you pregnant and I'm going to mold shit and make a hat out of it," it's kind of hard to take any one statement and go, "Well, that's the serious one." But that's that purposely ignoring context, or even when you can't ignore it, saying, "Yeah, we understand the context and we don't fucking care."
It's just soft targets. People find soft targets, and those targets, look, if they're all ganging up on Anthony, too. That's the other thing. I'm not saying boo-hoo Anthony, but let's pay attention to what's really going on. If you're writing an article out of the blue for no reason about Jim Norton, you're the only guy. I think Jim Norton is a despicable person, and you write this article. You have the option to respond to that. And you can go, well, who are you, Mr. Reporter Dickwad? Let's take a look at you, and then other people can take a look at him, too. Right. But when everybody's piling on, it's a free-for-all. It's a free ride.
And then you're there flailing wildly. Although Louis C.K. actually raised a really good point about that when something was happening. He goes, you have to remember, too, everybody's not Googling you. Like, everyone is not Googling Joe Rogan or Jim Norton or Anthony Cumia. Like, so you're seeing every result about yourself, and it appears overwhelming. But the reality is, like, people may be reading Newsday or The Post or The Gawker or Vice or, whatever they're reading, but they're not reading every single article on Anthony Cumia or on Jim Norton. So that's where the overwhelming thing is sometimes misleading because people are all reading little snippets of it. Mm-hmm. But when the company's getting calls from, again, 5 or 6 different outlets, to them it feels overwhelming and like, what the fuck do we do with this? Because this wasn't on the air. So I think that's what – and again, they haven't discussed this with me. I'm purely speculating because to them, if it was on the air, I'm guessing they would have said, well, that's what he does on the air. But they're not looking at it like, well, he was reacting to being hit. I think they just were like, oh, okay, we got to fire him. Like, I think that's why they kind of just reacted very quickly.
I think they fucked themselves. I really do. They fucked themselves because they were supposed to be the place where it was free speech. This is the wild place, but we're the virus. It was the virus channel, remember? Now it's Sirius XM Talk. That's it? Yeah, it's Sirius XM Talk.
We have to rename it, but we don't know what. Well, they have to. They're not asking for my input. I don't want my name on the show. Like I want to be on the show, but I don't want it to be Opie and Jimmy. I don't want people to feel like I'm jumping into Anthony's seat because I'm not.
Right.
If they call it Opie Show, I'm much more happy with that because that's what it was before he met Anthony Cumia.
How about call it We Miss Anthony?
Yeah, that would be kind of, or Tony. We'll call it Tony so they don't know who we're talking about. We'll just say, where's Tony?
We'll be sneaky.
Yeah. But it is a horrible, and it's like people get mad at me and Opie, and it's like, we don't, and I tried to say, like, we didn't.
Mad at you for what?
Because people think that we're like a bunch of teenagers hanging out, and they're like, you guys should walk in support. And it's like, first of all, you dumb motherfuckers that say that. Anthony, I've talked to, he wouldn't walk. And he told me, dude, you got to make your money. Like, and it's all, and B, I'm under contract. I can't just walk. I have 3 more months on the contract. And Opie tried to clear this up on the air. Like, if we just walk out, if they don't fire us and we just walk, and say a bunch more subs leave because they realize, like, wow, the show really is gone. Then all of a sudden, Sirius wants to take action on us for breach. It's a whole fucking legal. People just don't get that part of it, and they think that we're fucking Anthony. You know who doesn't think we're fucking Anthony? Anthony. He knows we're not fucking.
Only an idiot thinks you're fucking Anthony, but there's always going to be idiots with opinions out there.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. When people say, like, dude, I love you and Opie, but I got to cancel because I'm staying with Anthony, I don't get mad at those people. Or if people are like, I'm going to keep Sirius and I'm also going to listen to Ant, I don't bog. I'm fine with that, too, because I get the emotion. Like, whatever they got to do to support Ant is cool with me. I want them to stay because in my ideal world, they listen to me and Opie, and then they fucking listen to Anthony. There's no competition. I'm not gonna. We're not like, hey, don't mention Anthony. When his fucking show comes out, I'm gonna tweet it because I want him to succeed because he's one of my closest friends.
It's gonna succeed. It's going to. If he's an entertaining guy. He's an interesting guy, and the platform of the internet is so free and easy. And he's already got a full professional setup at his house.
Yeah.
People don't know if you've never seen. One of the main reasons I started this podcast is because of Live from the Compound. Because he set up a fucking green screen in his house, a professional studio, and he was playing images behind him of, like, the city, of, like, he had a green screen. I mean, a beautiful green screen. Like, professional broadcast quality cameras, like, the whole deal. I was like, that's amazing. And that slowly but surely led to what you're seeing right here. Like him doing that while he was already on Sirius. And Sirius tried to stop him from doing that. They gave him a hard time about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was it. I think that was a contractual issue too, where they're like, "Look, this is the medium you're on." But eventually, they kind of like let him do it, and they're like,
"It's only helping. It would only help the show. It's just more advertising, more people paying attention, more entertainment. It's going to get more people. I mean, that's what people are realizing about the internet. I mean, when Lars Ulrich got all upset at Metallica fans for downloading his shit, and it created this huge shit storm, where everybody was like, dude, don't you have enough fucking money? Like, you're worried about people downloading your shit? More people are going to come see you in concert. And that's what it really has turned out to be for all musical artists. Yeah, you're not selling as many records, but you're going to get more fans, and there's more people going to see you in concert. And guess what? That's all your money. When you can set that up and have people just come out and see you in concert, that's actually better.
I didn't mind. I'll tell you why I didn't mind Lars doing that, because I think that he kind of saved. What was happening is the music industry was not prepared for the onslaught of downloads. And again, they're greedy twats. The business, not the artists, but the fucking guys behind the scenes. They've been raping artists for years, fucking taking all their money. But had it not, because I think iTunes was born of the idea of Napster falling through. So it's like, I kind of like it because now I can go buy a song or two songs. Like, I'm not going to download a whole fucking Nicki Minaj album, but there's one song.
You like
fucking
Nicki Minaj?
Looking Ass Nigga is the fucking greatest song ever done. It's the fucking greatest thing ever done. I don't want to buy the whole album, but that fucking video is sexy.
Really?
I fucking love that song. I for real love it. It's great. And that I would buy. I don't want to buy the whole dumb record.
I wish we could play it, but we'll get pulled off of YouTube.
It's a song you can't sing also with the windows down, too, I found out recently. It's a lot of N-words.
Yes, it really is. But the lines she uses in that are fucking great. And I love the song. So, but that's just an example. Like, I can't buy that whole album.
Right.
And I like it for my own dumb little CDs that are on iTunes. I like the fact that I can make some money there. And they're not